How would I describe Inktober at the halfway point? Patience, perseverance, and determination. At the start of the challenge, you have all this hope and optimism, but something that's less talked about is the burnout halfway through. This is something that I have experienced in the previous years of doing Inktober, but it's also something that I've experienced this year as well. In my previous video in September, I planned out all of my Inktober sketches, and this really helped the stress levels, and I feel less burnt out as a result. It's only natural to feel some level of burnout when you're doing artwork every day and you're trying to film content of that artwork every single day. Overall, everything I said in the last video still stands up, but the one thing that I wish I would have done differently was start earlier. I started a day earlier in terms of the final pieces, but that wasn't enough. I wish I had at least done 3 days in advance, at least then I could try and get ahead. In this video, you'll see footage for day 2, 3, and 13. Yeah, it really was not intentional to miss out on days of filming, but when you're wrapped up in the mindset of Inktober and doing short form content, the long form content clips kind of get pushed to the back of the mind, or in my case, forgetting about it entirely. Of course, I wanted to complete Inktober. Just that feeling of completing something is just amazing. But it might surprise you to know that my main goal this year was not to complete Inktober. It sounds counterproductive, but in the end it's not, because it's forcing me to improve upon skills that I want to improve upon without even having to think about it. Completing Inktober is merely a result of the goal that I set in place, and that goal was to get better at editing short form content, pick up new editing styles and techniques, and just experiment and have fun with a new medium. Of course, completing Inktober is always at the back of my mind, because I want the satisfaction of completing it, but having a baseline goal, even if I don't complete the challenge, means that the challenge has still been a success for me. So far, the materials that I've used have been somewhat consistent. I've mostly used my drawing inks and watercolour brush pens, sometimes also getting out my Ohuhu brush markers to achieve more streaky, textured, feathery effects. This, however, had varying degrees of success. Sure, I'm a little rusty in places with art supplies, but the watercolour paper in this sketchbook has proved temperamental, to say the least. One thing that became clear from the feedback of my previous video is that people were asking about the sketchbook that I'm using for the final pieces. As I said in the previous video, this is the Tumuwata 14 by 14 centimeter watercolour sketchbook. It's 25% cotton and has cold press paper. A pro of this paper is that I've been able to get really lovely washes, and I've been able to use the cold press nature of this paper to my advantage within some of the pieces. This paper is very absorbent, which can be a double-edged sword at times. The paper is very durable and can handle pretty much anything you throw at it. But I will say, this paper has tested me and my patience in multiple ways over the last 2 weeks. We now interrupt this video's commentary for some satisfying watercolour washi tape peel. Definitely the best peel I've gotten all month, and have not been able to repeat since.
You can do whatever you want. There is no such thing as privacy in this store. Okay, I like those windows though. And then I was planning on using one of these tile roofs on this side and hopefully painting the whole thing like this sort of beigey colored stucco. And then I had this vision of our whole pathway being a nice little tile. I guess we could use a fancy tile if we wanted to. We could use this one instead. That does look way better. And then maybe we could put a little half wall section. The vision here is that there would be plants in it. But I think that looks kind of good, right? Oh my god. I'm trying so many things to try and make this look better. And I just don't know how to do it. There guess it has to be that pathway. What are our thoughts on this color combo? The green shingles and the green siding together. Is it too much?
I would say the most major con with this paper for me personally is not being able to get really fine details. This paper is not smooth by any means, and line working on this paper can be a bit of a chore, especially when using the smaller, more daintier pens. Something else that kept cropping up about this paper is the bleeding. Alcohol markers would bleed through it, especially when layering them, so I have to be really careful on the pages that I've doubled up when using my alcohol-based markers. With inks and watercolours, it's fine, it does not bleed through at all. It's just the alcohol markers seem to have a problem with bleeding through this paper. They bleed through most papers, to be fair, so it's not a huge issue. Peeling painter's tape and washi tape off this paper is hit or miss. There are some times where I've got it pretty much perfect, and then most of the times it just doesn't work. It either peels up the paper or I have a massive flood underneath the tape that I have to clean up with my opaque white ink. The Deleter opaque white ink has been my saviour for the last week and a half, and it will probably be my saviour for the rest of the month as well. During day 13's footage, I kept in all of the moments where my phone would come into view to film YouTube shorts and TikToks. I don't know whether you'll be able to tell in the footage for day 2 and day 3, but I try and avoid that quite a lot. But by day 13, I was thinking, why not show the reality of filming short form and long form content at the same time? It gives a really unique perspective, and it shows the challenges of doing both at the same time. And this is all while trying to keep a steady hand doing the artwork in the first place. So you're essentially seeing me do 3 things at once. Each of the pieces kind of link to my character universe, Marriner. In this video, you see day 2, day 3, and day 13. In day 2, it's a little scene of my vampire kingdom, Huxley, and its abandoned castle, and I imagine that spiders are going to be just in cobwebs in many different corners of the castle. This was a more simple composition that I thought would work very well. Day 3 was Path, and this is a more zoomed out composition of a previous painting I have done called Crystal Beach. This is meant to represent the path down to the Veronan Crystal Beach, and the original Crystal Beach piece is actually available as a print on my Etsy, and it appears on the back of my business card in mini form. Day 13 is a little bit more of a sentimental piece. It has more to do with the characters' stories instead of the locations. It focuses around my characters Sparrow and Pearl, and at this point in both of their storylines, they have both experienced such losses in their lives that Sparrow, now Emperor of Avis in the timeline, would create an event where thousands of lanterns would rise into the sky as a tribute to those they had lost. So far, this Inktober has been an absolute blast. Is it stressful? Yes. Since I haven't got final pieces in advance, I'm pretty much flying by the seat of my pants. But doing daily shorts has actually taught me so much in the last 2 weeks about YouTube. And there's also been an influx of people finding my content, not just from Inktober, but from the YouTube shorts themselves. So if you are new, I would like to thank you so much for subscribing, and I hope you stick around for future content. And I will thank the people who have been around for a really long time as well, because your support means the world to me. I'll catch you in my next video, short, or live stream, whatever I decide to make next. Bye guys!